Good morning, and thank you for joining us at our first webinar with THSCA and UIL. And our goal for this is to bring you some valid information, some current information, and be able to keep you updated with what's happening within our association and what's happening within University Interscholastic League. Today we have Dr. Susan Elza and Coach Brian Polk joining Coach West and myself to bring you some information over the next hour. There is a question and answer box that you can ask questions, and we will try to answer those as we go through this process. We're going to talk THSCA first and then kick it over to Dr. Elza and Coach Pope to update you on the UIL information. Susan and I have talked about having something like this for a long time, and as we got into the pandemic starting in March, we elected to wait until right at this point in August because we felt like it was going to be extremely important to be able to have communication and be able to update people on a monthly basis. And so moving forward, we will continue to have these each month and try to provide you some very pertinent, valid information each month. And we'll try to land on a consistent date of the month and a time where it's convenient. And if you have suggestions with that, reach out to us and let us know. But we're going to jump in and talk a little bit about coaching school. Really, we have not done anything from our office since coaching school. But I wanted to thank each one of you as a coach, as an athletic administrator, for your loyalty to THSCA. You guys made our efforts over the summer very valuable to us, and we appreciate your loyalty. We appreciate you jumping on and being a part of our coaching school. When we had to pivot on July the 6th and decide that we were canceling the in-person and presenting coaching school exclusively on a virtual platform, we had 13 days to make that happen. And we were concerned that we would not have very many coaches be able to come into that platform and create an avatar and use coaching school to their advantage. And we were wrong, and you guys showed your loyalty, and we certainly appreciate that. So we had 10,800 plus coaches register for coaching school. And to be honest, we were hoping we could get 4,000. That 10,800 plus number is a number that ranks as number 2 in the all-time history of coaches attending coaching school. So we appreciate your loyalty. We appreciate you being involved, not only just going to those lectures, but visiting with our exhibitors and our sponsors. That means a lot to us. We were very concerned because of the way that coaching school was happening and people were waiting so late to determine if they were going to be able to come, because you were waiting to see if we were going to be in person or virtual. Our membership numbers were way down. If you remember back to the beginning of coaching school, we talked about our concern with the numbers of memberships coming in, but we are now gaining that back. We're at 16,563 as of yesterday, which is on par for our normal membership numbers at this point in time. Coaching school is really important to us because of CCP courses, and the UIL staff represented, I believe, 17 different meetings, but they created all the sports specific updates, and they allowed the CCPs to be valid and updated and virtual, and their ability to do all that made a huge difference. So we completed, or you completed as coaches and administrators, 15,000 plus CCP courses during coaching school. And from the time coaching school was over until this last Friday, there was another 4,400 that were taken to get us over 20,000 CCP courses that were taken through coaching school. And that's really important to us because it helps us know that coaches are educated, and it's driving the message from UIL the way that we want it to be driven. And so we appreciate you guys jumping in and taking care of that. That is open until the replay of all of our coaching school is open until midnight on the 31st of August. So if you're still missing some CCP, you can still jump in there and get it taken care of. Out of a certification, the certification 1.0, or the first round of certification, ended in August are at coaching school, and we have certified over 20,000 coaches in Advocacy tackle training, and that's extremely important to us because we think we're making the game safer, and we know that this is going to make a difference moving forward, and we appreciate all the football coaches out there taking this initiative to heart and making sure that we're following this initiative as we move forward. You'll start hearing about 2.0 starting with our fast clinics in December, and there's more information coming in the near future on that. Really want to thank you for owning the protocol and understanding what the protocol and the mitigation process was during strength and conditioning, and being able to wear your mask, and how important it was for us to manage. If you remember, we talked about strength and conditioning, and when we got started, the goal wasn't to get through strength and conditioning. It was to get to this Friday night football game of this week, to those first volleyball games that took place a couple of weeks ago, and we appreciate you following that protocol all through strength and conditioning. And we've got to continue to do it. We've got to continue to follow that protocol and use that message in everything that we're doing all through this fall. We have to do it together to be able to continue to do it. Our 2A through 4A, our 1A through 4A coaches, football coaches are bringing their games out on Thursday and Friday night of this week, and our volleyball teams have already started, and our 5As and 6As are hoping that you guys will continue to follow that so they can continue to do what they need to do as well. This is the executive order talking about face coverings. Coach Polk, Dr. Elza, anything that y'all want to bring to light here? I know number 2 is extremely important, and it talks about UIL activities and when people need to have a mask on or a face covering on. And then the last statement at the bottom is extremely important as well. Do y'all have any input you want to add to that?
Go ahead, Brian.
You know, I think, first of all, I want to echo what Joe said and tell our coaches how much we appreciate you because the vast majority of us are following this right here that we have on the screen, which is an executive order from our state governor's office. It's not something that just the UIL has put into place. It's something that we all have to follow. We know it's not ideal. It's not normal. But we also want to think about our seasons, getting our kids to play, and the safety factor and the piece. If you do have a positive case and you're following these protocols and you're following these face coverings regulations, that you're going to have a chance not to sit too many of your kids out. And that's a big piece for us. Bottom line is, if you read number 2, like Joe said, all employees, parents, visitors, and students 10 years of age or older must have a face covering or a face shield on upon entry into a UIL activity. And really the only time you don't have to have it on is if you're actively playing and participating in the contest, or if you're 6 feet away from everyone. So that includes coaches and players that are on the bench area in volleyball, and that includes coaches and players that are on the sideline in football. And we know it's difficult. It's not easy to have a helmet on. And when you go to the sideline, you know, within a matter of seconds, you may be called on the field and off the field. We know all of those issues are there. But the bottom line is, it's an executive order, and we need to follow it. And we need to follow it for everybody in the state of Texas, and, you know, not get our own personal agendas in the way. This is not about, you know, how we think about the face mask, and if we think this COVID piece is real or if it's not. It has nothing to do with that. We need to follow these guidelines and keep our kids safe. And if you're not actively involved, which if you're a coach or if you're a player on the sideline or on the bench area, you need to have a face covering on. It saves us and it saves sports in the state of Texas. So we're going to send out some clarifying language later on this week before we start contests in football. We know they've been going on in volleyball and some of our other sports. Just encouraging you to make sure you know these regulations. They're on every one of our sports pages on our UIL website, and you can't miss it. You need to read it. You need to stay within it.
Thanks, Coach Polk. Again, this is just some information that will help us continue to have activities throughout the fall and into the winter. This is another piece that came to us, and really the reason for us having this webinar is to advocate for coaches and be able to share information one of the questions that came to us a couple of weeks ago, and we shared it on Sports U, and we got some really good feedback about how people are hydrating their kids during practice. And then the question came up of how do we hydrate during a game because of all the regulations that are out there. We talk about going back to old school where you fill up one cup, give it that cup to an athlete, and then they throw it in the trash. And that is one way of being able to handle that hydration question that was a concern for so many coaches out there. You know, we've talked about and celebrated what coaches have done and athletic administrators have enforced and following the UIL guidelines. And again, our place in this is to advocate for coaches and to make sure that we can drive the narrative to be able to show how we can start school, how we can start athletic seasons and continue to stay in school and continue to play. And so we put some surveys out, and we've used these surveys to help guide that narrative to be able to share with multiple different people. This one, this was the first survey that we've sent. We shared this with the governor's office. We shared this with the task force of the governor. We shared this with TEA. It's been shared quite a bit throughout the state of Texas. And it was just an informal survey, but we had a great response. We had 65,000 kids in a program. This was strength and conditioning. And of the 65,000 plus, there was 278 positive cases. 4 of those traced back to camp and 4 hospitalizations for a less than half of 1% showed up with a positive case. And we have tried to drive these surveys as much as we possibly can. This is the second one. After we finished that first survey that was dealing with athletes, people came back and asked, well, what about coaches? And so we had 250 responses. Of that 250 responses, there was 3,700 plus strength and conditioning workouts where coaches were involved. And there was 74 coaches that ended up coming back with a positive test. 2 of those coaches were hospitalized. And then at the bottom of that survey, it shows the age range of coaches that were involved in this survey, which gives you a pretty good indicator of where we are from that. And then this last survey we sent out was to our 2A through 4A football coaches and our 1A through 4A volleyball coaches. And the results we have not released yet, and we'll do that today on social media. But from a football scenario, there was, from the people reporting, we had 8,900 plus participants, 3,554 practices when you take ninth graders, JV, and varsity. And of that, there was 34 positive cases and 11 coaches that tested positive. From a volleyball standpoint, 1,036 participants and 127 contests or scrimmages with 0. And that's a great narrative, and that will help us drive the information over the next few weeks. And we will continue to release these surveys to 5A and 6A schools, trying to gain that same information to be able to share to help with that narrative. A couple of other things that we wanted to talk about. We are planning on celebrating 100 years of football from THSCA. There's more to come from that. We've got some people involved that will help us celebrate that. In September, I believe September the 7th or 8th, your Texas coach will land in your inbox. It will be distributed digitally. It will not be mailed to you. That's one of the cost savings that we had to incur due to COVID, as well as the digital membership card that has been sent to you. If you're a member, you receive that. You know, that card is really special to us, and we think it's important for coaches to be able to pick that up at coaching school. But this was a different year in a way that we have come up with being able to distribute this to help our coaches. One of the things about this member card, as we get into these games and scrimmages, is a lot of schools are not going to honor that to allow you entrance into games because of their numbers in their stands and being able to manage the 50% or 25% that they're under. So just be aware of that. A couple of other things, and I'm going to throw it over to Coach West and let him talk to you about some things that we have coming in the near future. and then we'll flip it over to our UIL friends.
We, Joe and I looked after coaching school was over, and we realized that most of you guys had built your avatar and used the campus of our virtual, and we realized that we had that and through the end of the year, and so we thought we would capitalize on that and actually have a clinic. So on September the 19th, which is a Saturday, we're going to have the first ever overtime clinic. And that's going to be another thing that's historical about that is it's not going to have any football. So the in-season football, volleyball, cross country will not be involved in this clinic. So it'll be strictly a clinic for the sports that are not currently in season. And you can see a list of who we have here. It's a completely high school clinic. We have some of the top coaches in each of these fields. It's going to be 3 male coaches or coaches guys sports and 3 female that coaches girls sports. And we've done that all the way through. The way it's going to be is at 8 o'clock that morning, we will actually open the doors. And if you're you've got a basketball coach or a soccer coach, they'll start at 9 o'clock with lectures. Those lectures will be 40 minutes apiece. We have different rooms that they'll go to, and they'll be done at noon. So they'll be able to get, and we'll be able to publicize this, keep talking about it. The important thing here is it's 100% free. If you signed up for coaching school, it will not cost you a penny. And we wanted to do that as a service to our coaches. So it's a free clinic. And then that afternoon, starting at 12 o'clock, is baseball and softball and track. And so we'll do, as I said earlier, basketball and soccer in the morning, baseball, softball, and track in the afternoon. And so it's a Saturday on the 19th. It will, like I said, start. The doors will open at 8. It'll start at 9 and end that afternoon at about 3:30. So really looking forward to it. We'll have several things going. It'll be 40 minutes apiece. And so we hope that you will talk to your coaches and get them involved. Again, it's a free clinic and it's for our coaches. Sir? Yep. The exhibit hall is, we're going to be able to have exhibitors going on there at that time. And please go and visit. One of the thoughts were that you'd be able to buy your stuff they normally, when they come to your school in early fall, and you can buy for spring sports, you can start buying your materials. You'll be able to do that here. And so all of our exhibitors will be there. The reason it was 40 minutes long is because as soon as the lecture's over, it'll be 20 minutes to the next one. You'll be able to go into the exhibit hall, which will be right there, and we'll be able to buy and order your stuff at that time. So that's what our hope is. The difference in this and what we did at coaching school, you will not leave this campus. So you'll walk into the exhibit hall, walk into the auditorium to hear the speaker, and then come out of that into the exhibit hall. You won't take this and move over to another website. It'll be strictly all done here on the campus. So again, that starts at September the 19th. Last thing I want to talk to you guys about is Sports U. We've done a really, really great job of using this. You're using it with your parents, you're using it with your players. And I want to kind of let you know the potential that's here. Talking to Brad Matthews at Sports U, we are growing at about 30,000 members a day in the state of Texas. As of yesterday, we had 270,000 people that are on Sports U. So it's become a real powerful way to communicate. And we're doing it at over 95,000 people are active users a day. So it's really, really active. It's where our surveys have come. As you well know, anything that comes on as an emergency, it could be with the hurricane coming, it could be with something that comes from the UIL that we need to get it to you immediately. We'll be able to get it to you here on Sports U, and you can get it to your parents and your players at just a click of one button. And as the legislative session will start this spring, this will be a huge tool that we're going to be using. So, and just as we're talking to people, they can't believe that we have this mechanism that we can get out so fast, and it is a private, it is something that's done that you can control. within your school and within your players of what you want them to see, so you can understand the potential that's here. And we're really excited about it. If you're not signed up for Sports U yet, you really, really need to do it. It's something that we're going to, as Joe and I've said earlier, it's going to be our way to communicate with you, and hopefully your way to communicate with your players and your parents as soon as possible. If you have any question on this at all, please contact us.
Thanks, Coach West. We're going to flip this back over to Dr. Elza and Coach Polk. That ends our information at this point in time. So y'all take it and run with it. Thanks.
All right. Well, hello, everybody. We're glad to be here. Glad to see almost 300 of you on here. And I know that y'all have tuned in to some other things that we've participated in. I just want to say thank you to Joe and Glenn. I think any opportunity that you can get to be in front of coaches and hopefully fill in some gaps and take some questions. I mean, there's just such great benefit to that. So thank you for doing this. Thank you on behalf of UIL, and thank you on behalf of the coaches of this state. You know, I want to say, I don't know if y'all noticed, but there's an answer way to type in questions, and Brian's been answering those. On one of them I'm going to touch on here in just a second. I had also typed in there. But any questions you have, we'll make our best attempt to answer those. I'm going to just kind of give you a broad overview. Brian's got a few things that he's going to cover with y'all. But I want to start with a couple of thank yous. I'm going to start in reverse. Usually I start at the top of our organization and then talk about our athletic staff, but I'm going to talk about our athletic staff first. And hopefully my internet connection's good. If it isn't, Polk, you're going to end up having to take this over. Brian Polk, our Associate Athletic Director, is on here. AJ Martinez, Joseph Garman, and Brandy Belk. Y'all, they've been working tirelessly. And if you think that 60,000 coaches in the state is a lot, then you add the parents to it that call us and all the administrators. And it's a large task. And there's a lot of moving parts on this thing. And it changes daily for us like it does for you. But they are 110% devoted to making sure that you guys have all the questions answered and we can fill in all the gaps. And, you know, I'll just continue to reinforce to you to use our website, use the sport-specific documents that are for COVID-19. They will answer your questions. I know we all typically don't like to read a lot, but they have all that information in there that you need. Let's go to the top. Dr. Bradup's been in the organization for 30 years. Jamie Harrison, our deputy director, has been there for 10. And, you know, we get to make a lot of recommendations to them, but they've got to make the tough decisions. They have to toe the line, you know, with some of the things that come in our way on this decision-making. And they have been steadfast through all of this. And they've been very supportive of our staff. And they've been very supportive of athletics, music, and academics. And I just, you know, I think a lot of times people think that the athletic staff, you know, is doing all the work. And, you know, and sometimes we probably unfairly get too much of the credit. And as Dr. Braddup says, we unfairly get too much of the blame. But it's real important to us as a staff that you recognize that there's two really strong leaders at the top of our organization. And we appreciate them so much. The biggest thank you, Joe said it earlier, and I wanted just to kind of hold my comments just to tell you that the biggest thank you goes to our coaches in this state and our athletic trainers. You know, I've heard so many coaches say they feel like they've coached an entire season and they're just beginning their seasons. And, you know, the protocols that y'all have had to stick to are working. And Joe and Glenn have done a great job of collecting that data and showing evidence and proof to that. Keep going, okay? It's working. And we're going to have seasons. We're going to have seasons with disruptions. We have a lot to celebrate. 1A through 4A. Sure, they've had some schools that have had some cases of COVID-19 and they've had some stumbling blocks and they're having to get accustomed to the face mask and all that stuff. But guess what? We've started volleyball. We've started cross country. We've started team tennis. And starting on Thursday, we kick off football this week. 5A and 6A, man, you're on the heels of this thing, and hopefully you're learning a lot. I've heard a lot of the 5A, 6A schools that are going to the 4A and below practices to check on their protocols, to make sure they're queued up, ready to go. But it's a lot to celebrate, but the credit goes to the coaches and the people in the schools that are making sure this happens. So thank you for all of that. And I know y'all didn't get on here to hear me give a rah-rah, but man, I'm just so fired up about it. It's just unbelievable what everybody's been able to do. The 1A through 4A, like I said, has gotten started. You know, I think the biggest piece is the face coverings. And, you know, the biggest question when it comes to this, how does it work with the fans and all that? And I'm going to tell you something, guys, if you're not doing your face coverings right, there's going to be people turn you in, and it does get reported to us. Daryl Beasley, our compliance officer, chases that down with the schools and with the DECs. So if you have questions about it, just ask us. But you know, it's like Brian covered it earlier. I mean, there's really very little time that you're not wearing a face covering unless you're actively participating in a contest. I do want to talk about officials real quick. Officials are considered active participants in the contest, but as they take the field and you know, and they have the downtime, but you know, whether it's you know, between snaps and things like that, or in a timeout, or you know, on a volleyball court, you know, the R2, should they have them on? 9 times out of 10, they will have them on. If there's more than 6 feet of distance, they're probably not going to pull them up. If you've got an issue with one of them, just reach out and talk to us, and then we'll put you in contact with whoever we need to at THSCA or whoever. But I think that our officials are like our coaches. They want to have seasons, and they're going to be proactive in getting those face coverings on. But as anything else, when something's new, we're having a few growing pains over that, and we're just going to continue to push through that. The broadcast piece, I did want to clarify one thing. You know, I think everybody knows with the football that we've opened up the Friday night, and people are asking about that September 25th date. On the September 25th date, you just can't have a linear broadcast, which means that it's on TV. Okay, but you can stream on September 25th, and that date was reserved for Texas football days. It was a part of a change in our Constitution, and that is the only games on the 25th that can be broadcast on TV. That's what linear means. Okay, but if you are streaming your games, you're still able to do that for those Friday night football games. So that's a quick update on that. For those of y'all that are tuned in and wondering where we are with swimming, diving, wrestling, soccer, softball, baseball, we will have stuff coming in September. We were trying to get a little more time to pass to see if we were going to be able to make any changes or adjustments, or needed to make any changes or adjustments. As y'all have seen, cross country, we had to reduce the number of qualifiers. We've had to move that meet to 2 days because of the safety pieces that we need to make sure are in place. We are considering what we need to do for swimming and diving. We are obviously considering what we need to do for wrestling. So give us some time. The number one question coming from soccer and softball and baseball right now is, you know, will we have tournaments? I would probably, even though we don't have this publicized, I would probably count on not having tournaments in those sports this year. Soccer, we will have something out soon, because I know everybody's trying to plan for their seasons, but just know that is something that is most likely going to change, just like it did for volleyball and basketball. You know, the biggest piece that I see is just making sure you're doing things right. But what I see is, I think schools are thinking they're doing it right, and they maybe just don't have all the pieces. So if you do get turned in, or someone questions how, you know, the way you're doing your face coverings, or how your kids are sitting on the bench, or how they're on the sideline, you know, don't be so offended by that. Just to understand that people are wanting to make sure that we're able to have seasons all year long. Sometimes that push gets a little negative. It even gets a little negative for us, but rely on the UIL staff and let us help you find your way. And if you're unsure of something, just reach out. Any one of us can answer those questions. Other than that, you know, we have had some schools that have opted to not participate in the fall sports out of health and safety concerns in the area that they're in. We know that we've got a pretty big concern coming from, you know, the DFW area, and what's maybe potentially going to happen there. Hopefully my internet connection's working. But we just, you know, we're going to find our way through those issues as they come. You know, I know Dallas ISD has some big decisions to make, and I know it's all over the media, but we're just patiently waiting on them to let us know what direction they're going, and if they're going to be able to participate in the fall sports. Where we are right now is they are participating. So I know that that's on everybody's target, and there may be other schools to follow, but we're gonna find our way and navigate our ways through those, based on the districts that they compete in, and if any changes need to be made, then we will definitely consider those. I'm going to kick it over to Polk. He's going to cover some 100-year anniversary stuff for a couple of our sports and anything else, and then we'll answer any questions that may have popped up while we were on this call.
Yeah, just real quick, we too are going to celebrate 100 years of football, of course, from a UIL standpoint. It's not going to be quite as extensive as we had first hoped. And so it may be a 2-year celebration for us. We had wanted to bring in quite a few folks into our state championship games and recognize them from different parts of the state for the last 100 years that we are probably not going to do this year with the COVID piece being in place. But we are going to have decals that are mailed out to every school in the state of Texas. I believe the 1A through 4A decals have already been mailed. And if you don't have them, you should be receiving those shortly. The 5A, 6A decals, I believe, will be mailed out over the next week or so, so that y'all will have those before you begin your actual playing season. And I think the patches are going to be sent out the first week of September. And we will, of course, send out an email when we get those patches that we ordered in or that you ordered in to be able to send out to our schools. So we'll send some more information out about 100 years of football, but we are going to celebrate it as well. Just to add a couple of things, Susan hit on this. In every one of our sports-specific pages, we have a document off of our manual link that pretty much says COVID, football calendar and information, or cross country, COVID, football calendar and information. So make sure you're up to date on those documents, because those are the documents we're updating with all the changes that we have. Don't necessarily just look at our manual because we're not able to update everything in our normal manual this year. Hopefully that we're only using these changes for one of our sports seasons throughout this school year. So make sure you're looking at that document. It gives you any changes we have from a game standpoint, from a practice standpoint. I know we have some changes in volleyball that they've already been using. Football wise, make sure you understand that the two schools can mutually agree to extend the team area from 10 to 10 for coaches and players, and understanding the hydration that, we know it's going to be hot at the beginning of the year, and it's hard to get water to your kids during timeouts if they can't share water bottles. So you can always meet with the officials and the opposing coach from a football standpoint early on and agree to make timeouts 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes long. So you've got some additional time in there. But just make sure you're keeping up, you're up and up on those documents that we have on our webpage.
I saw a couple of questions come in, and I think Brenda Marshall, I covered that one on what was the reason for the 25th. It's because of that's a reserve for the Texas Football Days in Texas, and any other Friday, the home team, the two teams can stream the games, and then there can be a linear broadcast, and I believe that has to be owned by the home team. Coach Castillo asked if the district needs to cancel because of health concerns, will the UIL allow competitions in the spring on a game-by-game basis for those that didn't get games in the fall? And I think what you're asking, Coach Castillo, is if we aren't unable to complete our traditional season within the beginning of the season district to the very end of the postseason, and we're unable to, or even prior to postseason, would we allow some extension? I can't 100% say yes, that's exactly what we're going to do, but we are prepared to review and make decisions on, maybe just allowing some non-honors type seasons if needed, because we understand the importance and the value of kids being able to participate. And we also understand the challenges that go with COVID-19 and the unpredictable, just times that we're in. And there may be a point where, a whole season is wiped out for certain schools, and we'll be prepared to answer those questions and figure out positive solutions so that kids can still have their opportunity to participate. Wow, do we have a lot of questions in there, Polk? You're muted.
We did. I've been answering them as we've gone.
Got most of them? Okay. If our district stays virtual in November, does the UIL prohibit coaches from continuing to practice in person? No, that is completely a district decision on whether if you're all virtual and your school district allows you to come in person to practice, that has nothing to do with UIL. That's all district discretion. And did you get that other one, Polk, on the Gators? I guess you did. He's fast, y'all. My gosh. I mean, I don't even know what I'm doing on here. I want to say that last thing, because it doesn't look like we have very many more questions, but you know, and I've said this just last week, and I just want to say it again. You know, as coaches, we go through a lot of success and we go through a lot of failure, and that's just what we do. And we're built for both success and failure, but we don't let either one of them get the best of us or overwhelm us. So this is just one of those times we're going to have a lot of successes in it. We're going to get excited because we're able to play games, and then we're going to have the setback of, you know, a big majority of our teams or our programs aren't able to participate because COVID hits their teams, and they don't have enough kids to participate, or their school has shut down. And guys, you got to persevere through it, because as I said, those numbers, they speak volumes to all of us on our protocols and them working. They're not great when it happens, and we know that, and we know that they're not easy to determine who has been exposed, but y'all are using that close contact definition, and you're keeping kids safe. And that's the number one thing that you're supposed to be doing. What I love is the passion of our coaches and how important it is for them to make sure they're doing it right so that kids can participate, because they know that participation for kids is of the utmost value. And it gives me goosebumps to be in this profession, and you guys inspire us every day. Just keep doing what you're doing and push through so we can have some great seasons in front of us. Joe, Glenn, thank y'all for having us.
Your internet's messing up with you, it sounds like to me. Well, thank y'all for being a part of this, and want to echo what Susan is talking about. We celebrate what our coaches are doing, and this has been a tough beginning. It's been a tough spring. It was a tough strength and conditioning. It's a tough beginning, but that's what coaches do. We respond to those questions and those challenges, and to be able to make it happen. It's important for us to have our kids involved in these programs, and it's important for us to get into not only our fall seasons, but to get into in-person school and get back to some sort of normalcy. And that's the reason for us collaborating with UIL. That's the reason for us advocating on coaches' behalf, and providing these surveys to be able to get some information so we can help change and drive the narrative about how it can be safe and how we can do this. And it takes all of us to be able to get it done. So we will, and we had some questions about this earlier, we will put all 3 surveys up on our website. We will again post it in SportsU. We will post this 3rd one, this last one that we had that was dealing with volleyball and football, 1A through 4A, and get that out there today. But we will house all those surveys on our website for anybody that needs them to be able to utilize them. Brian, there's some other questions in there. Did you want to answer those before we jump off?
You're muted.
Susan, you may want to answer that first one. It's talking about the guidance and other schools maybe requiring some screening of their kids after they've already screened them.
Is my internet connection working good enough?
Yeah, you're working now.
I have troubles at this time of day. I apologize, everybody. So guidance on other schools wanting to screen, take temperatures on our players when we travel there. You know, if I'm reading this right, hang on. Oh, okay. You're concerned that if they get off a bus ride and it's the temperature, you know, they're hot, their body temperature is hot. So when you go to someone else's facilities, ISD, and we're learning this because we're preparing for our state championships in volleyball and football, and volleyball in particular is going to require every fan, every coach, every official, every UIL person that comes in there to have a temperature screening. So for any school district that's requiring that, yes. Now, the one thing that I have seen, and I would probably talk it through with the school district that is requiring that when y'all visit their campus, is that there's a second opportunity to get your temperature. It's not just one and done. So I would talk that through. Yes, they can do that, but I would talk that through with the district that you are that you're concerned with, and I'm sure that there's a resolution for that. But the screenings that I have seen like that, and they're not relative to UIL, the high school sports, but they are offering, you do get, a couple of times to make sure that the temperature check is accurate. But yes, that can happen. What else we got, Brian?
We got one of folks saying that, do we still have the same, this is really a TEA question. Do they have the same limitations of having 1 to 4 coach to kid ratio for outside groups? And that would be something, if you've got outside groups coming in once school starts, that is allowed now. You would need to make sure that those outside groups are adhering to all those TEA regulations. It's no longer a UIL or a school piece. It's more of a TEA piece.
There's a question on there from Wade dealing with virtual resources for middle school coaches. We do have some from a strength and conditioning standpoint on Sports U, that performance course provided for us. We have some character development that is on there that came from 2 Words and Clint Rutledge and others. We had 4 or 5 different people giving us some character development throughout the summer, throughout sports, strength and conditioning. We had nutritionists. I'm not sure, Wade, what else you're asking for, but if that doesn't answer your question, hit us back and we'll try to answer it for you. Brian or Susan, y'all want to answer Coach Trevino's question regarding positive test?
Yeah. I would just tell you and I'm going to answer this, but you need to probably review the protocol. So I just want to remind everybody, if you get a positive test, you play the game on Friday, football, volleyball, whatever it may be, cross country, team tennis, you get a test on Friday, find out after the game that a kid tested positive, you're required to contact the school that you participated against, and you're also required to contact the official. As far as your team, if you've played against someone that has a kid with a positive case, that close contact definition is what you're going to have to defer to. And just figuring out if there was, 15 cumulative minutes with their face uncovered and all those things that go with that. What I think most of y'all will find in those scenarios that it probably the contact wasn't there. And then if you're having a hard time sifting through it, or you need just a little bit more input, what we're telling everybody is call your local county health departments, tell them what you've determined after competing against this team, and that you don't feel like any of the kids need to be removed for A, B, C, and D answer, and see if they concur with you. And 9 times out of 10, they will. I know I've seen some cases where some of the health departments are pretty conservative, and they're going ahead and telling those kids to sit out for 14 days. And that's tough, but it's, again, if you're out on a limb and you're not sure, you've got to lean on your local Department of Health Services for that.
Coach Bandy is asking, again, to clarify, it's hot out there in West Texas on those yellow dogs, and I would allow those kids to have a cooling off time period to be able to, before you check their temperature. But I'll let Susan and Brian address.
Yeah, and Coach Bandy and even Lance that asked that question, if you've got a concern, I'm answering this in a broad stroke, and I don't have all the details. So y'all got to understand, if there is an issue or a concern when you're going to another school and you feel like that maybe they're going above and beyond when you already have that protocol set in place, let's work through it. Let's work through it with the other school. And what I mean by that, call us, let's talk through it. But the schools may have some protocols that are above and beyond what you have for you to be able to enter their school. And they have the ability and the authority to do that. But if you're already doing your temperature screening, like what Lance said, maybe that school district doesn't realize that. But again, guys, it's just about keeping kids safe. So when they come in and if they're checking your athletes, just entering a building or whatever it may be, and their rule is if you've got an excessive temperature, 100 above, I don't know what the number is, that's what I've been seeing, then those kids may not be able to participate. So you need to work with that school. If it seems like it's unreasonable or there's something kind of tricky in there you don't think is right, then call me, call Brian, call any one of our staff members, and we'll help you work through it.
Baseball, softball question at the bottom. Coach
Yeah,
Wright?
David, hang with us, because we're gonna, if you'll look at what we've done with volleyball and what we've done with basketball, if we lose tournaments, we're gonna figure out ways to replace your games.
Hey, I just want to say this. I've been around this now for a long time, in my 42nd year, and when I started in 1978 at Denton, we didn't have communication with UIL like this, and we didn't have collaboration from our Coaches Association with UIL. And I appreciate the questions. I appreciate the number of people. We didn't know if we'd have 100 or 200 on here, and we're well over 300 now. I just appreciate you guys jumping on here, but appreciate the UIL for wanting to deliver information, and having a Q&A like this is really, really helpful. I just appreciate what y'all are doing for our coaches, and how y'all have welcomed our association into UIL. And this is really, truly a team effort and a group effort. I appreciate y'all's time today to be a part of this, and I think our coaches have appreciated it as well. We've gotten quite a few pats on the back as we were going through this today. So Brian, Susan, thank y'all so much for being a part of this, and we look forward to doing this in the future. If coaches want this, then we'll continue to do it. So thank y'all very much.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
You bet. We're going to sign off and let them go to their next appointment like we have here in just a minute ourselves. So is anything else that anybody has? All right, we're good to go. Appreciate it. Thanks a bunch. We'll see you next month.
Thank y'all.
Thank y'all.
Thank
Everybody
you.
be safe.